Hi, you are watching SightsIn Plus and this is Romesh Shivastu. Please to subscribe the channel for the HR news, for HR updates and conversation with the top-notch CHROs, thought leaders and business heads. Today we are going to discuss and analyze the third quarter results of India's top IT companies like TCS, Infosys, Wipro and HCLTech. We will try to analyze and figure it out that what are going to be the trends in IT companies in coming quarters and in next financial year. We have two senior HR leaders. Let me introduce Ms. Pallavi Mishra. She is Assistant Vice President, Human Resources at Amantya Technologies, and Mr. Milind Mutallik. He is a former Chief People Officer at Accolite Digital. Milind, if I come to you first, so if you look at the data, so numbers are getting reduced, maybe in terms of headcounts, maybe in terms of net profit, also in terms of attrition. But yeah, that's fine. Attrition is getting stabilized. How do you see, how do you explain these numbers? How do you explain the third quarter results of these India's top IT4 companies?
Thanks, Ramesh, for inviting me and Pallavi here for the discussion. And as I hear, see, and attended some of the calls which happened on the declaration of the results. Every organization has a little different story. However, in consolidation, there are four major reasons which we are seeing. If you look at the last quarter itself, okay, the furlough typically is the reason given by a lot of organizations that people were on the leave, and it's being this time hit much higher, harder. And that being the reason, if you look at North America region business, where majority of the organization is down by 3%. Whereas Europe and rest of the you see UK and Europe has gone up by 8% in this particular quarter, last quarter, and the India business has grown by some 23% odd. Now, what is this showing? Depicting a picture that US is typically, which is a major market, has not shown a good kind of a response at this time with the reason. Second, every time during this quarter, there's a expectation that this discretionary tech spend will come, which has not come this time. Again, this is coming from all the analysts and others' data. However, while the environment is really speaking little cautious and going with little slow, however, there are order book which is with all these four companies, which is definitely showing that there's going to be a better, I wouldn't say fourth quarter, but fifth quarter onwards, or the next first quarter of the next year. Okay, since the deal pipeline and booking is high or robust, you would expect the definite change which will come in the first quarter of 2025 or 24, going ahead to a 24-25 kind of. One more factor which observed or analyzed by various analysts is impact of US Fed interest rates, which they during the conference they have said that either, which has happened somewhere in December 2023, so it's latest, that they're going to keep that interest rate either same or it may be lowered. Now, this is one more reason for us to feel positive about it. Now, coming to HCL is the one which has scored the best out of the all top four. And let me give you a bit of a reasons which I have observed and analyzed. One is their Verizon deal, okay, and integration of the new acquired organization which they have got, ASAP Holding of Germany Automotive. Now, this is something their so-called telecom practice has given them a huge revenue during this quarter, because the implementation for Verizon has started immediately, and ASAP Holding also gave them a revenue there. And their EBITDA is better, their margins are better than others. One of the important thing what they have done is, though they have financial services growth is only of 1.3, but they have software business going by 5, ERS going by 8.7, and majorly what has contributed is Verizon deal. Hiring pattern for HCL is quite standard, and they have added up about 3,800 freshers during this quarter rather, and till the third quarter they have hired about 9,000. That's what has been declared. Now their attrition has dropped by about, I would say, 9% compared to last year, which is about 12.8%. These are the factors which allowed them to grow, because telecom increase is about 25% as compared to the last quarters. And I think this was the story of HCL. While the rest of the organizations, like example, if I talk about Wipro, they do have a not very large deals, but they have a deals where they are made the inroads. They have given a reason of wages hike, which they have done for their employees, and furlough, which has impacted this quarter. They've got selected in various US organizations for a business platform deployment, retail banking. Some of the energy organizations, they have won the deal. They're not, huge deals, but they have won the deals. Also, they've got selected in various other government projects, and they have such kind of a 14 deals with them. So again, coming to Wipro, though the story at this point of a time, they have degrown, but again, I'm saying coming to the first quarter of the next year, they are definitely going to show the better. This has also caused a so-called founders' attention, saying that they need to look into the organization, and that's something which has been stated by many of the analysts. Coming to Infosys, I would say in Infosys there are two major things which went wrong in Infosys. One, there was a cyber attack on their one of the sub organization or subsidiary Mechasim IMS system, and they had to kind of absorb 30 million during this quarter. And one more thing which happened is 1.6 billion of a contract of 15 years deal with European client didn't enter the master agreement, and that also had a bit of a, I would say, negative impact. Though it is spread over a period of 15 years, there was some impact. Another critical factor for Infi is their utilization is expected by them to the extent of 85% is 83.7%. And they expect that with this, they have about 6,000, around 6,000 manpower on the bench. Now, you understand based on this what's going to be their hiring situation. They also said that they have invested in training. Okay. Gen AI, as you have said, they've invested 1 lakh resources being trained on it, expecting that they are having this Europe project and they will be able to go ahead with. However, their strategy is going to be more to focus onto the manufacturing and healthcare. One of the things which is observed over last 2 or 3 quarters, BFSI is losing the shine, with majority of the 4 companies not talking great about BFSI growth. Okay, and TCS is actually, they say this quarter there was no typically a muted performance or whatever you call it, a slowdown. However, their large deals and the order book is really high, and they expect they'll able to make it really good. Some of the numbers which they have showed, okay, 11.2 billion of order book. They expected 1.6, as a ratio to do a utilization or getting the revenue, which has not happened. That's a CEO statement says, but said the pipeline remains strong for them. Okay, and they are seeing momentum across the market. You rightly said there is a trend to go towards the new technologies, data, AI. These are something which so in short, when I look at this, my summary statement would be the market is transforming. And how do we see the coming quarters? We'll talk about it later. But this is the phase, I believe, where the way to the way the IT services organizations are delivering to their clients is going to change. So I see a transformation. Looking at this 4 or 5, 6, 7 organizations, be it Tech Mahindra has still not come up with the result, but if you look at Mindtree and others, okay, if you look at the trend remains same, that there is a bit of a change in the whole of order. Manufacturing is going to take over. Some of the other verticals will take over. That's what earlier banking and financial used to drive the whole IT services area, and that's something which I feel, in my personal opinion, would be a change. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Great analysis, great analysis. Uh, Milind, as you rightly said, that SCL has performed well out of these 4 companies, maybe in terms of headcounts, maybe in terms of net profit and addition as well. And of course, the market is going through the transformation. Let me also bring the Pallavi into the discussion. Pallavi, what is your observation about the third quarter results?
Before I answer your question, I must say that Milind's analysis was very detailed and very insightful. Thank you so much for that, Milind. But I don't think so that this was a surprise element to any of the people who were being watchful of the global situations, right? From 2022, as we moved on to 2023, we knew that there are certain global events which are happening, which are impacting the European and US markets adversely and seriously adversely, which is getting shown up in the budget constraints, in the sign of the deals, in the the tenure or the time taken to sign off the deals. This was being clear right in the first quarter that 2023 will not be an easy year for IT companies which are having the client base out of Europe and US. So maybe I'm not taken by surprise, but yes, I believe that IT industry in India is capable of bouncing back very voraciously. So what I expect is that, like Milind mentioned, that quarter four will be stronger. More so because we now know that what is that we are getting into from the perspective of what are my budgets, from what I am looking at the future pipeline business, from my headcount perspective, what I would like to invest in my people. By quarter four, we will have clarity on all of these actions, and hence, I would appear as an employer. I would try to make sure that my quarter four gets a little better, so that when I make an entry in the next financial year, I am on a stronger foot than what I entered in 2023. This is what my takeaway will be. But this is not a surprise, neither in terms of attrition. If you see the layoff trends with all the big organizations, they have run in thousands and thousands. People have taken their chances in quarter one and quarter two. Quarter three, of course, they would want to stay back with their employer so that they are becoming entitled to the appraisal cycle, which is coming up in most of the organizations. They are deciding to, against the switching at this hour, because the newer in the organization, the higher is the risk of getting laid off in terms of any hard decisions being taken by your new employer. So it's all, I mean, I wouldn't say that the dots are not connected. I can see all the dots getting connected in quarter three and expected.
Right, right. So, Milind, if you look at the data and try to analyze on the basis of attrition and try to figure out that what may be the hiring trends in coming quarters and beyond. So, based on this attrition, what is announced by the companies, so TCS has announced 13.30% attrition. So, if we calculate, so roughly that should be around 20,000 people, those who left the organization this quarter, third quarter. And the company has reported 5,000 dip in their headcount. So it means 15,000 people they recruited in the third quarter. Similarly, if we try to calculate for the Infosys, so around 10,000 people they left the organization in third quarter, and there's a difference of around 6,000 people in this headcount dip, you can say. So hiring means they hired only 4,000 people in this third quarter. Similarly, with the Wipro, it should be around 8,500 people, those who left the organization, and the company has shown and reported the dip in headcount, that is the 4,000. And so it means they recruited around 4,500 people in the third quarter. HCLTech, that has performed well, and based on attrition, if we calculate, so around 7,200 people left the organization, and company has reported the addition of 3,000 something people in this third quarter. So around 10,200 something people means the company has recruited in this quarter, third quarter. Based on this data, how do you foresee that what may be the hiring trend in coming quarter and beyond that?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, the hiring, or for that matter, the replenishing of the resources is not done because there's not a huge demand. Now, one of the things which is changing and which is drastically impacting is multi-year contracts. One of the aspect, again, if you look at when you were giving earlier a contract of a multi-year, everybody wants to go for multi-year contract now because they would like to look at from both the sides, from a customer side as well as from the so-called service provider side. So first, let me give you one of the comment given by one Gartner analyst, senior principal analyst, saying that with the digitization and the new aspect coming in AI and others, they expect the end user expenses to go up by 8 to 10% in the next year. And IT, so-called Indian IT firms will definitely benefit out of it. So one part, first to pick up, 8% is something expected to be a growth in top line. Now, how much materializes, how much does not materialize is a thing to see. But as I made a mention, it is directly connected to the top line. Okay. And in the demand expectation in 2023, there was a lot of hiring done. We have seen the great resignation time. We have seen the great hiring time. Because people were expecting now this wave will go up in such a way. So everybody had an excess inventory. And, with various other aspects being started. So example, moonlighting was one of the part, and that being a reason many organizations got that about 65 to 70% of employees have to come to office. Many of them left because of it. Many of them have tried to readjust themselves to be near their location. So there are both the sides of reason. One side is revenue, and a demand is not as expected in 2022, which has turned out to be in 2023, which shows from the outcomes and results. Second, very important thing I would say, the new deals won on the new technologies. See, you gave a number 1.5 lakhs were trained on AI by TCS, 1 lakh trained by Infosys on generative AI. But where is the conversion of the business? It's not there. Okay. Now, this is one more factor where they are not able to really do a layoff, neither they are able to hire more. They would like to utilize the same resources. Okay. Very clear change which has happened is whenever you are having these multi-year contracts, client is asking you to take the part in the risk. Also, they are trying to do one more important thing is they are asking you to cut the cost. And one of the analysts, which is from TC, or rather one of the, I think CEO or somebody of TCS has made a comment saying that client has become smarter. And instead of 20 or 25% of saving, today the savings are going up to 40, 45%. Now just imagine the change of this percentage, which will make you to ensure that you have to save more. Now, how do you do that? All the IT services organizations have 50% of their cost, and around 50% is on manpower. So one of the lever of adjusting the cost would be the manpower. And this is exactly the scenario where we are seeing, be it a lateral, be it a fresher hiring, the lever is on the low. Other than HCL, there's definitely a hue and cry when it comes to campus hiring by any other organization. So in summary, if I have to say in a summary, one, the revenue growth, not as per expected, or demand not as expected earlier. Two, building up more bench has created an issue. Okay. And thus the rehiring is not happening. However, again, I'm saying the second quarter in terms of calendar, that is starting from April onwards, we'll able to see, because yet US numbers of clients budgeting is not finished. It's early January, and we will take a stock of it. How does the US spend comes in for the next year? That will build our manpower. However, what is expected is about 8% increase in the manpower which we have currently. Now, if you look at on an average 12% as the attrition ratio and 8% is new demand, that means 20% will be added up next year. Okay. In whatever, Indian IT industry has 5.4 million, 54 lakhs employees working in Indian IT industry as per NASSCOM. So 20% of it could be a probable growth next year. That is based on these numbers and assumptions. Okay.
Well, do you also think that right now these IT companies are busy in upskilling their existing workforce on the generative AI? Because if you look at the data, so TCS has already announced that they are upgrading their 1,50,000 people. They are already upgraded, already upskilled 1,50,000 people on generative AI. Infosys around 1 lakh, Wipro around 1 lakh. So they're working on this generative AI upskilling part right now. Maybe this skill is not readily available in the market currently. So maybe first they will upskill the workforce, and maybe they are expecting that more projects there would be for the generative AI in next financial year. So after that, they will go in market for the hiring, and if that would be required, how do you see? What is your observation on this?
See, any new technology comes in, you have to take a two steps. Either you train your own employees who are with you and you know their capabilities, because see, it's not going to be only distinctly AI which is required. AI will sit on to some of the core applications. So you need to know XYZ core technologies, and then you will add AI part of it. Okay. Now AI is more of a tool which is enabling more our applications to do in a better manner. Okay. So AI is needed technology, AI data, and such other analysis and such other aspect would be required to build onto the solutions. So we are making solution orientation along with the new technologies. And that being the reason, it's imperative that everybody will have to train their employees. Today it's 1 lakh, okay? And which is, maybe I would rather say, in terms of Infi or in terms of, TCS, what percentage it is. If you have 5 lakh of a manpower or 3.5 lakh of a manpower, you're training 1 lakh or 1.5 lakh is hardly a percentage which is less than 30% for you. Okay. And that is something which they are going to wait and watch. They will have the engine running where they are able to convert at least 50% to as a, AI at different levels, expert or, so-called practitioner and so on and so forth. So learning and development or upskilling is going to be next 6 months a major rigor on that. One is spending the budget, and two, being ready for the next business which is going to come to you.
Right, right. And Pallavi, what is your assessment about the hiring in coming quarters?
Um, Ramesh, to be very honest, I don't see a very huge increase in the numbers getting hired, especially on the lateral hiring side. Because yes, as an organizations, everybody is looking at that. What is my business pipeline? What is my talent pipeline? Do a good critical review of it, and then decide that yes, this is where I would like to invest money. Because hiring, again, it is not as simple as it seems to be. It is a huge cost that is incurred by the organizations, and then there is a hidden cost that comes in terms of when the person gets onboarded, or the offer decline ratio is extremely high these days. Uh, uh, you have to spend time in making sure that the person is ramped up, and then the person becomes a revenue generating person on the team. So it is not as simple as that. I'm not seeing very high increases. I'm also not seeing very high increases in the numbers of campus hires either. One thing that I've personally analyzed or personally seen is that while the organizations are trying to spend a lot of time and energy and making investments in training their existing resources on the upcoming technologies, something which is new in the market, uh, with two hopes. One, they will be able to keep their employees engaged. They have something new to learn to and prepare themselves for the future. And B, in the hope of getting the new business. But one gap which I really feel is that since our customers are now smarter, like Milind said, uh, I see that their demands have evolved in the last 2 years. Instead of talking about saying that, a team size, instead of talking about saying that, okay, I need so many people with this much of experience, they now really dictate the terms and conditions of what kind of resource am I looking at on my team. If I'm paying you X dollars for an hour or a day, I would like to have a person with total this much of experience, particularly on these features or these applications, this much of experience. Now, this is where employer will find it difficult because you're only training them. You're not putting them on the job. You're not giving them any live projects on which they can really test their skills. Have I learned something nice? Yes. Am I able to use it? I believe that is the point where the issue will come. In spite of spending a lot of energy on upskilling, uh, retaining your employees. And that's the reason that there will be a dip in the numbers also, because you're already making an investment. You would want to wait to see the ROI coming out.
Yeah, Pallavi, yeah. Milind, if you look at the data and based on this third-party result, if you try to understand, so companies are not very active on the campus hiring right now. TCS said they will do some campus hiring, but not in very loud way. Infosys, they are silent. Wipro, they are silent. SCL, yeah, they look little confident on this. How do you see, what is your assessment about the campus hiring in coming quarters, or you can say in next financial year?
So one of the important thing which we need to note is there is a change in the demand scenario for the freshers. The reason is very clear that when you hire the freshers, you have 6 to 9 months of investment in them to make them productive or billable, as we call it. Earlier, there used to be a bandwidth because you are able to have that much of a margin to put in as an investment to develop this resources and make them billable. Currently, as we see the demand is really not in a great way, you need to really avoid the investment which you can avoid. And as I mentioned earlier, Infosys has already built up a bench. Okay, the reason with their utilization ratio is not up to 85%, which they expect, and that being a reason 6,000 plus is the excess manpower which they have got. Could be one of the reason is their project didn't come through. Okay, TCS is going more cautious because of the conversion they wanted of their so-called pipeline of 11.9 billion to be converted at the ratio of 1.6 every quarter as a ratio has didn't turn out to be that way. Now that being a reason, it's a cautious step to see that where they are able to kind of stop or avoid. In contrast, HCL has a different story. As I made a mention, Verizon has already started, and their order book, many of the orders have started being executed in 2023 itself, or say mid and to second and third quarter of 2023 started, kind of getting executed, and that's the reason typically HCL is still going ahead with the campus, and they have a plan to take over the campus and go ahead with it. Uh, Another important thing, if you look at the numbers overall in India campus, as I mentioned, there are 3,200 engineering colleges or institutes, which roughly produces about 15 lakhs of grads, computer grads, every engineers every year. And out of that, 115 lakhs, one of the highest, hiring in 2022 of 6 lakh was from IT services organization in 2022, which has reduced in 2023 from 6 lakhs to 2 lakhs, and expected 2024 run is about 1.5 to 1.7 lakhs. Now, it's being always historically, not that all 50 lakhs are being hired. What is being hired could be, 50% of it, 70% of it. But the share of IT services used to be very huge, which has now changed, and it is reducing because the investment they are not ready to take. Campuses also are very much aware of this year on year, the change of trend, and they have started now focusing on the GCCs and some of the core businesses. And the third aspect is many manufacturing companies have come up with digitization transformation programs with AI, data, and others. So they are trying to see that how they are able to fit this computer graduates over there also as a support in terms of transformation on digitization. In summary, when it comes to IT services, is going to be a lower scenario when it comes to 2024 because majority of them have still not reached the campus to start their campus hiring and others. Yeah. So that's the summary from my point of view on the campus hiring.
Yeah. And Pallavi, what is your projection about the campus hiring in next financial year 25, I would say, because for 24, already the campus hiring is done, I suppose.
So 24 people which students which are expected, they have already been given the offer. 25 what we expect, and I totally agree with Milind that the number is going to be drastically low this year because almost every IT organization is struggling with their bench. They're struggling with the pyramid or the right kind of talent mix that they require in the system, and they are definitely focusing on containing the expenditures which they can And honestly, if conditions change, for example, if something changes, overnight in the market scenario, they can always go for the campus, right? They can always go ahead and make those hires instead of going for a a larger number of hires and then not knowing what to do with them. Actually, it's a two-way loss. The fresher is not getting the learning and the mentorship, which is a loss to the person, and the organization is investing so much into it, and they're not sure of how and when can I be starting to get the revenue out of it. So it's a loss situation on either sides. And plus, there is a way possible in which if things change for better, I will be able to meet my fresher hiring target if that comes to it. So I definitely agree that the numbers will be way low than what they were last year.
Milind, do you want to add in something?
Many places where the onboarding is delayed, they have been asking them to prepare themselves with the new technological certifications and courses. Also, one of the comment which the CFO of Infosys gave is saying that we are building more capabilities of a training by which we are able to hire the off-campus when the demand picks up and able to train them faster as compared to the fresher. So in case fresher, if you're giving 6 to 9 months, we should be able to train these people in half or even lesser than half the time. So I think people are building the capability to finish the goods faster in the process of learning faster and take the off campus and giving every campus that if you want to be in IT services, make them to learn a certification onto a lot of areas of AI, data, and such other aspects. Yeah, so that's one more addition from my side.
True, true, true. Milind, I was going through a couple of surveys on the salary hike part, and I saw that generally we have seen a good salary hike in IT industries, but this year in 2024 we can see the highest salary hike in manufacturing and life sciences. In IT sector, we can see around 9.8% of the average salary hike, and in ITS that is maybe around 8% somehow. What is your projection about the salary hike? How do you see the salary hike trends in this year, 2024, in IT industry?
If you look at the, again, where is this salary hike comes from? It comes from the people or the pyramid the organization has. Okay. The minute the pyramid goes on, see, when I worked earlier with the giant organization likes of Cogniz and, like of that, Senecron, we have seen that we were having the huge bottom. Okay. If you're having about 40% or 45% of your employees, okay, young and so-called freshers into 1 to 3 years of time, you're giving them 20% increase, but the impact on my bottom line is going to be hardly any percent. Reason is I'm adding onto a lower cost a percentage, which I will still declare as 20% has been given to all the people up to 5 years experience. But what is their salaries? Look at it. Today, the scenario has changed in last 3 years. Your pyramid has moved up. So when you talk about 9.5%, in older days, it could be 18%, 15%, 13%. I don't know. I'm just giving a guess. Also, I feel 9.5% or 9.8 or 8% is very high to ask for. Infosys or some of the other organization, I don't recollect the name exactly, Infosys has kept salary hikes for all the 10% of the top employees. Because they must have gauged this 10% would have an impact of X points on my margin. So it's going to be a simple game of how much margin I have. Because every time I used to go to my CEO, in very organization where I worked at the top, that, we want to do a salary increase. And he would say, how much points is going to impact my bottom line? Tell me, assuming my top line is going to be conservative. And it's going to be a game. So for me, in my personal opinion, 9.5% or 8% is too high call. I would call it won't be more than 4 to 5% because I want to retain the employees.
Yeah, right, Milind, but 9.8%, which is projected, is the average salary, median salary. The range may start from 4% or 3% to, that may go 17% to 18% like this. So this is the average salary hike, which is projected.
I would rather ask if you pick up the average salaries, okay, always the Western countries, US and other increments are always 2%, 3% because of, their comps accordingly. But if you look at India, if 4 years back, 5 years back, any of these top companies' average salary was X. Now that average has gone up by 20%. Okay, with this, you hiring the people during the time of great resignations, 20% on an average hike has come into the median salaries of the organization. If I had to load on zero 20%, okay, and I have to further load 8% on that, is going to be a big call. So for me, the math shows that it's going to be a very tough year where you have to really float around to see how best you can do it. 9.8% or 8% average is also a big call, according to my thought process.
Yeah, yeah. And Pallavi, what is your take on the salary hike trends for this year, 2024?
Totally believe that this is a deceptive figure. I wouldn't comment saying that 9% is a high call or a low call or a conservative call, because I'm not really sure of what strata of the inexperience and the base salary we are looking at. Somebody who's below 5 lakhs or maybe below 8 lakhs, 9.8% seems to be a relatively low number as compared to 2022 and 2023. But if we're talking about the existing employee force right now, 9.8 would be a very good median if you're giving that, because the hiring has really changed the salary brackets. In the recent past, the way 2022, after the Great Resignation, the hiring has happened, the so-called salary bands are over the roof. And to maintain that, you will have to cut the corners somewhere or the other. So employers will be conservative in giving it. But like I said, I will not be commenting generically, but I'll say that, yeah, it is getting driven by the base denominator.
Yeah, Milind, do you have anything to add here?
If there is a sport comes in, let's say example, I'm bagging 5 orders and immediately the things are changing. The whole thing will be converted more into a so-called project level bonuses and other such incentives rather than fixed costs to be incurred for the whole of a year. I think the approach would change, and that's what I see many of them will do. That if you're getting a project which is successful in a time, what is happening, exactly the same conditions are being put in by the clients on us. So I think it's really speaking today a very, very competitive environment where the demand is really pushing you very hard. Okay, or rather, I would say demand is low and you are having the good amount of resources built up with you. Increasing the salary is going to be the last choice anybody would take, unless it is really driving because of attrition or because of any other reasons they are losing their employees. Otherwise, employees do know what is the situation the organization is passing through because of results in other areas. Yeah.
Milind, experts are also saying that from next financial year, from the second quarter, we can see the V-shaped recovery in IT industry. What is your comment on this? How do you feel?
Absolutely. The reason for it is one very important thing. If you look at, the big IT firms classify their contracts as, 100 millions or above is a large deal, and 500 millions and above is a mega deals. And if you look at May 2023 itself, okay, all the organizations have shown, and last, I think, quarter, we discussed about the numbers also. 3.7 billion contract with HCL, 11 point some billion contract with TCS, and 7.7 billion contract with Infosys. All this is adding up to when are they going to start? And that's the reason we say, as it comes to maybe a so-called second quarter of the next year, June, July, you would see a traction coming in. Okay, and this is where why they are cautious, because probably many of them have mentioned quarter four is still going to remain the same as quarter three. There won't be a huge enthusiasm and over the roof kind of a scene. There will be a same constant scenario: 2%, 3% top line, less than 3%, except HCL, which could do something better as compared to others. But rest of them have given kind of so-called cautious view for the next quarter. I think, as experts say, V shape will come in only when the new contract execution starts and the hiring will happen. Yeah. So that's what my take would be on it.
Yeah, very nice perspective, Milind. Pallavi, we tried to discuss the third quarter results. We tried to discuss the hiring part, maybe the lateral hiring or campus hiring in coming quarters. Anything else which is important and we did not touch here? according to you, and your concluding remarks.
Something which I would like to mention over here is a typical human aspect here, Ramesh, that while this churn is ongoing, and I think everybody has their own perspective. Employees have their own, employers have their own, clients have their own. One thing as an HR professional, I would really want to draw the attention is that we have to look at the aspect of coexistence and the value that we all bring on the table. Okay, I mean, being on this side of the table, I don't know how many hard conversations I have had when the joinings were deferred, when the salaries were negotiated, when employees were quitting, and we wanted to retain or we wanted some people to let go. All these are part of the job, but what we are missing at right now is that uh, let's understand what is the intention of the person sitting on the other side of the table. Coexistence and having the value that I bring on the table, the day we will actually acknowledge that, things will become easier for the people as well as for the employees. We are missing a major point over here. The team camaraderie, the team management, I, me, myself attitude, which has somehow creeped in, post COVID, I'll say more, is definitely causing a concern, a friction, which is not welcomed by any of the project leaders, any of the people who are looking at the balance sheets, because it's like many wheels, in a bus. There are many wheels, and all of them need to run in a tandem. So all technical people, HR people, finance people, the leadership, the management, we all need to think alike. And only then the vehicle will move forward. If we all keep thinking about our own perspectives, the journey will never start. So, while as an employee, I'm putting up the demands, I should always wait from the lens of that. Yes, if I'm asking for something like this, a salary hike like this, or an investment from an organization like this is what I'm going to provide. An employer should also think that, yes, I'm investing in this, and this is a realistic expectation from my people, and let those expectations be clearly laid out. There shouldn't be any hidden columns, any hidden conversations, any clauses which are not known to me. Then I'm declaring it now. Nothing like that. uh, this is what I truly believe from the core of my heart. We need to start working on that.
No, of course, great points, Pallavi. Milind, any of your final comments?
Yes. So really understand what Pallavi is saying, and I think that's one of the core for HR. And said, one of the comments which happened very recently by one of the politicians saying that, emotions are only with people, rest is taken care by AI. Okay. So I think more transparency, more communication, more speaking the fact is something which has to happen, because we all are IT services are going through a tough times. It's not easy time. If there is a transformation, you always don't know what's going to be the next. Okay. And that being a reason, human aspect is something which is needed a big practice. Completely, align with Pallavi's thought on this, saying that we need to bring in more than a numbers, also people's sentiments in our discussions. Yeah. Now coming to some of the concluding remarks from my end, the whole change of scenario in the market, former Infosys CFO Balakrishnan said that whenever these economic challenges appear, demand recedes, and we are seeing that it becomes buyer market. That's something which is there, and clients try to push more clauses, including capping pricing, asking for outcome based deals, and you being partner in the risk. Now, when you come to a multi-year contract, this is a new phase a lot of IT services companies are looking at. And that's one of the reason the whole scenario is going to change when it comes to people, when it comes to attrition, when it comes to cost. While I'm saying this, the Fed meeting gives us a lot of positive signals. If the interest rates from 5.5% goes down to 4 or 3%, which is expected by anonymous, report saying that undisclosed report saying that it would be, revised to downwards. I think it will be more budgets which will be released for outsourcing from US, which is forming about 58% of our outsourcing at this point of time. Coming to number which has been thrown by Gartner for 2024 says that overall spending by US is going to be increased. And number I'm trying to say is 5.5 trillion, which is on the technology, which is up by 8% as compared to the last year 2023. Okay, Europe will increase by 1.1 trillion US dollar, but it's typically 9.3%. Okay, the rest of the regions like MENA is talking about 4%, Australia is talking about some percentage which is around 4% or 5% of their last year. Overall, the investment spend is going to be on IT of 8%, and that being a reason the growth rate has been put in towards about 8 to 10%. Okay, the whole thing which will be driven by data centers, AI, IT services, these three are a focus areas. When I say data centers, software spend both is going to be about 25% of the thing, and AI is going to play a major part of it. IT services will be 10%, but the communication, according to them, they've given just 3.3% as a growth. So overall, if you look at rightly managed 8% also could give a good results. However, you will not have a freedom to have a lot of flexibility when it comes to trying the new things or doing the things different way, because you're being attached to the risk of your project. That's not being left with the client, it's with you. So that's where I said it's a transformation phase where you are dealing with the new deals. The way of working had changed. You're not having a leverage so much which you had earlier, and you were having still margin of 15%, 20%, 25% EBITDA. That these days are gone unless you are able to still have a wave of AI being mastered and you are able to work with the new technology and get a big business out of it. Yeah. So change is something which is happening. Transformation is happening. I think those who are able to ride the wave faster will able to have much better growth. Yeah. That's my personal comment.
Right, right. So I think we have been able to analyze the data correctly, and we have been able to do the justice what the people are looking at the IT industry right now. And thank you so much, Milind and Pallavi, for joining the conversation and sharing your wonderful thoughts. Thank you so much.